Welcome back to another episode of the Strongman Winner Circle podcast. I'm your host, Nicholas Camby. This is episode 39. And today, this is the official Strongman Games Contenders show, 105 kilo. So we have a lot of familiar faces back on the podcast, but a first time appearance for Mr. Frank Provenzano. But we also have Mr. Justin Loy, Mike O'Connor, and Mr. Glutes, Dan Hughes. So guys, thank you for coming on. So we have a great show for you today. We're going to be talking about trading leading up to the show, OSG events, and who to watch out for each event. We're going to answer your fan questions. And if you guys get lucky at the end, maybe I'll give you my predictions for the title. But first, let's catch up with the boys and chat about what you guys have been up to. But first, let's start with Frank. So this is Frank's first time on the show. So make sure you welcome Mr. Frank. So guys, thank you for coming on. Frank, good to see you.
What's up, man? Thanks for having me, Nick. I appreciate it. What's up, guys? How we doing? So just catching up on what I've been doing the last couple of months. I've been getting my facility, bought a training facility in Manalapan, New Jersey for, it started as an online business. It's called Pro Concepts Training. It's kind of morphing into something called Pro Concepts Integrated Wellness because it's not just training, it's lifestyle and everything else, nutrition as well. I have a small brick and mortar training facility where we train pretty much lifestyle clients. The online side of the programming and nutrition is open to all ages, all types, whatever your sport happens to be. I've been just busting my ass training and working to get my business off the ground.
Oh, excellent. How about you, Mr. Justin? What's the latest with you?
I fully work for myself now with Prestige Performance. Trying to get grow that. Looking at going to medical school for probably like sports nutrition or clinical nutrition. And then just training, trying to get myself healthy, get ready to go for OSG.
Excellent. Only where are we at? 10 less than 10 days away. Mr. Dan?
Not too much. Last we spoke, I think it was following Clash. Did a brief off-season block with Terry, and then started prep for ASM. Had to pull out because work had me traveling too much, and it just wasn't going to be worth it because I knew Camby was going to win anyway. And then since probably mid-September, been doing this prep for OSG.
Cool. Win or get hurt. That's what I always say. How about Mr. Mike? I think Mike wins the award for most competitions this year.
Yeah.
The group of us.
Yeah, it's been a busy competition season for me. I think last time I was on was after winning Clash on the Cumberland in Nashville back in January, which qualified me for Clash on the Coast. Competed at Clash on the Coast in April, made it to the finals there, ended up in 10th place. And I took a short kind of summer off season before starting an 8-week prep for Clash at the Corral in Waco in September. Got first place there. 4 weeks later, competed in Paris at the Ultimate Strongman World Championship, and then had a short 5-week prep for OSG coming up. So busy year.
Yeah, your third Worlds. Can you believe it?
Yeah.
But so far, of course, with OSG coming up, 7 events total. So how has you guys' training been leading up to this point, and what do you guys find most challenging preparing for all these events? So
Justin?
Yeah, Justin, you give a good answer.
Without getting too much into it, I've just been working through a few injuries and stuff. Everything finally started clicking the past couple weeks. Haven't really been pushing much on the weights and more just mobility recovery, stuff like that. So see how it goes.
Justin loves to troll us.
Yeah.
And make it seem like his training isn't going well.
I said it's gotten better.
That's called he's sandbagging.
Yeah, yes.
It's the power stash I got now.
Is that you got to keep that for OSG?
Oh, I'm thinking about it. Although me and Dan got a deal, and it kind of depends on if I have a stash or not. So it might go.
What's the deal? Can you share?
Yeah.
You'll find out.
You'll find out if the conditions are set.
Yes.
What? Put it in the group chat.
I'll tell you when you're older. It's not inappropriate. I just don't want to spoil the surprise.
All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, it's not like weird or anything.
We're gonna
But,
propose to each other.
Now it is.
I'm not superstitious, but I am a little stitious.
Now, Mike, how you been working on in terms of fitting all these events in your training? So of course, I know you do kind of a small prep for each of one, but like how you been able to fit all that in?
Yeah, I mean, I've been having to really carefully manage fatigue and recovery. So really paying close attention to volume and intensity just with all the competitions and different competitions back to back. I did start incorporating some of the OSG events in my training leading up to Ultimate Strongman Worlds to kind of at least touch some of the implements and start getting familiar with them. There's also been some kind of similarities between these different competitions I've been doing. So, but yeah, again, trying to really carefully manage fatigue because it's been kind of piling up. Yeah, just trying to peak right now or have peaked, and now hopefully all goes well.
I always say kind of peaking is the name of the game. But Dan, anything we didn't hear from you. What any challenges that you face during this?
The biggest challenge over the last year is mostly just work. I mean, I've been on over like 50 flights this year, stayed in a lot of hotels. Each different trip has its own challenges. Sometimes it doesn't really affect training, sometimes it does. Terry's been really good at working with me, and really no week, especially during this prep, no single week has looked the exact same as far as when I can train or where I can train. So that's caused some frustrations. I don't think it's really going to affect me too much, but it's a lot of extra stuff and planning that in the past I really haven't had to worry about. When I do get to train, if I get a full training week, training's been pretty good for the most part. I mean, if I had to worry about one event, it's probably yoke right now, which is hilarious because yoke historically has been one of my best events. So, I mean, we'll see. My last yoke session wasn't great, but whatever.
It's usually a little tough coming in. So will this be your first 900-pound yoke?
In a competition, yeah.
Mhm. Oh wow, yeah, that's
I mean, I've run a 900-pound yoke though.
excellent. Did you do 1,000 in training just because?
I tried to hit 1,200 and no, I'm just kidding. No, I did not go over 900.
Smart. But let's discuss some of our picks. So I'm gonna go into the split screen here. So give me one moment. Haha, welcome to my computer. So I organized from Team USA, Team UK, and everyone else. All right. So of course we got a former champion in Clayton. We got one of Dan's buddy. We have Dan. Of course, you can see going down the list. Of course, you have Team England, and then it looks like it's updated because I checked the thing and my name's no longer in there. So that's good. He's actually been live updating the pieces there. So when starting, let's talk about the Viking press. So supposedly it's going to be 325 pounds in hand. So just off the bat, I would think that your boy Alex Bromley is going to be maybe the one to shoot for the top. I'm pretty sure he was second to Isaac in 2019. His presses look pretty good as of late. He has really short arms. So Bromley, yes, you do have short arms if you're listening.
Yes, he does.
But who else do you guys think is going to be running for the top of the Viking press?
You can't cat out Clayton. He's always had a pretty decent, strong press. You know what I mean? And he's a veteran. You know, he's been under everything. So you can't count the guy out.
Yeah, and then at SCL Worlds last year, Marshall Zinn and Miko Anila both did really well at the Viking press event there. So I'd expect to see some good performances out of those two.
Yeah, so Miko, I believe, has a 170 kilo log or 374. He actually was pretty good in the log last year. I think he came in second. He tied Chad Curran with second with 4 reps at 325 for the push press away. So, and then last year he was banged up. I think he came in with a bad bicep. So it kind of hurt him on some events. So with a healthy Miko, I think he's going to be pretty strong. You guys, anybody else you guys like to add? How's your guys Viking press training been? I know Dan's been breaking Viking presses, but
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I've made a huge improvement on it. It's hard to tell. And I think it's interesting what people claim they have weight in hand with no regard to like how physics work and levers work and stuff. And that's not aimed at anybody specifically, but I think it will be interesting. I think a lot of people will probably be shocked at what 325 in hand actually feels like. So that'll be interesting, especially people who haven't done it.
Dan, oh, sorry about
before.
go
Go ahead.
ahead. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, there's a formula, right, that people smarter than myself would use to figure out, fulcrum to load and then fulcrum to everything, right? The physics formula for it. If you just took a scale and put it, like a game scale, a fish hook, and picked it up, is that accurate weight in hand?
I think so. It'll vary slightly from the bottom of the press to the top of the press.
Right.
And like I said, I'm not really trying to get super into that, but I think it's going to feel a little bit different if it's truly 325 in hand versus having 400 pounds 2 feet behind the bar is a little bit different. And I know we talked in one of our chats recently, Camby and Justin, about like really the best thing you can do is just get as strong as possible in that position and in that pressing position. And I'm sure a lot of people are doing that, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's kind of a punch in the face for a lot of people once they get under it and try that first rep thinking they're going to get double digits. But I mean, who's going to do double digits on a 325 axle? Very few people. So if that's what you think you're going into, you might be shocked. One thing that I think helped me in training is I had that really crappy Texas Power Concepts half car squat, half wheel of pain, half Viking press. And so I used that for one of my Viking presses during the week. So it really helped with stabilization because of how incredibly unstable it is. And then I would go to Everyday Athletes in Louisville and do it on a much more stable platform. That's probably, I understand it'll be easier than what the actual implement is, but I was able to really overload the weight and do a lot more on it. So I think that's helped me. Just going off of the Texas Power Concept one alone, I've added like 100 pounds to that from the beginning of this prep to now. So I'm excited to try it.
Great answer, Dan. Thank you. And then not to forget when you guys are at the official Strongman games, the whole setup in the Viking press, the log and all the kegs are going to be brought you by James Deffenbog. So of course, thank James of Spider Strength because he helped provide a lot of that and also the kind of metrics for each weight in terms of what's weights in hand and all. So he did the calculations and all. So of course, make sure to send him a thank you. Anything else before we move on? No, we're good.
I did see that. I saw that Lynn posted today, I think actually this afternoon, that he has the setup where he's actually validating all the weights using a scale. So it's not just based off calculation, which would be pretty accurate.
No, actually, yeah, you must have that fish scale. So the farmers is next. So the farmers is going to be 300 down, 300 for 50 feet, 300 back with 50 feet, and then 330 pounds in each hand for 50 feet. So 150 in total. So I see a couple guys I think in this group that will probably be pretty good. Dan looked pretty good with his heavy farmers the other day. I feel like Justin's a good mover, but who else is going to be pushing for that? I think we can't, again, we probably can use Clayton from a lot of these ones, but Clayton is when healthy, he's a pretty good mover, but who else do you guys think is going to be gripping and ripping those farmers?
Yeah, I had Justin and Dan and Clayton as well, but another one is I competed against Sean Diver from Ireland over in Paris, and he's strong at farmers. And it looks like Kevin Candido has been doing pretty well with it in training as well.
I think it's safe to say too, like Nick Hine is a badass all around. He's a serious competitor. He trains really hard. So if he comes in even somewhat fit, he can go in under any of these categories from what I've seen. It's a pretty strong cat.
Yep.
I think it's going to come down for a lot of people just who makes the least amount of mistakes on this event with down and back.
Fast transitions.
Three picks total. If you're not dropping it, I mean, that's my focus going into this event. I haven't dropped any of these weights in training so far, knock on wood, whatever. But like usually the difference in my times, whether it's sub comp weight or at comp weight, it's been bad drops, bad picks on the turns. And I think that's what it's going to come down to, because the 300 and 330 shouldn't really be so much a tested grip for a lot of these guys. It's just going to be speed and speed of transitions.
Here I was thinking it was going to be 350 on that return run for the final. Son of a bitch.
Now, do you think the weights were pretty good, were well picked, or you think it should have been heavier for the show?
No, I think they're great
Mhm.
weights. I just don't like it. I mean, it's 150 feet total, so you have to be somewhat reasonable. Considering, and take it for what it's worth, the world record is now 375. Like, it's 350 for the last 50 feet would have probably been a little much. I feel like a lot of people probably wouldn't have gotten it, at least finished it. I don't have an issue with the weight. I'm just saying it's going to be more of a speed, an issue with speed and less who can just hold on to it.
Mhm.
That makes
I
sense.
think a lot of guys will struggle with the 330.
Me too.
Mainly because that's a lot of distance. That's a lot of picks. They're going to be all amped up. Probably make, a couple mistakes like on that second pick of the 300 or whatever it is. And then go into that 330 recklessly trying to pick it fast, not get a good grip on it or something and stumble, drop it, or, I think that one will be the big test.
Yeah, I mean, 330 alone isn't a big deal, but 330 after already doing 100
Yep.
feet with 2 picks of 300, it's gonna be tough.
So
My mantra is going to be slow as smooth, smooth as fast. I know you guys have all heard that before, but my first OSG, I rushed the shit out of it. I'm just going to try to be consistent all the way through.
how did you do with did you have the turn right?
Oh my God, no, it was terrible. Me and Lloyd were right next to each other. I think it was 2019. They showed highlights of it. I slipped out of my hands on the first
Oh,
pick.
yeah.
It was awful.
That's
just-
what I was
dropped it on the
yeah.
turn that year.
That's when I was supposed to be a 90 guy and I beat him.
Yep. Yep. I caught you at the turn. I picked up and I caught you at the turn, but then I ended up dropping again. I think I didn't finish a single event that year.
Did you tear your hand?
It was terrible. It was terrible. Can we move on?
I think then the other two ones, I think Stephen Bradley has a pretty good deadlift. He looks like a pretty good mover. I think he's going to do well in this event. And also Jacob Hare, where's his name? Yeah, Jake Hare.
Yeah, he's in there.
He's a
Yeah.
pretty good. He's a pretty good mover. And I think he's another one that gets coached by Terrence. So I think he's going to do pretty well. So next event is the axle deadlift on the Hummer tires, 640 for reps. I see a few big pullers in this group with Michael Connor and Mr. Frank Provenzano, but Dan is also a great puller. He took second at the Clash and is pretty much similar weight. So what do you guys think? I would say there's a lot of good pullers. So you can, I think this is the one thing that Clayton was never a great puller at 231. He was a better puller at heavyweight, but at the 231 level, he always kind of struggled with a front bar. So I think this is where Clayton might struggle a little bit. But I could see someone like Jonathan Parker doing well. I think he's probably waiting for this event. I think that's what he's been training for all year, is this axle deadlift. But who else do you guys think is going to be pulling out some big reps? Of course, McKeegan is
Yeah.
we haven't mentioned him yet. Of course, McKeegan, but what do you guys think about the deadlift, and how would I don't know if you guys want to give out your tips in terms of how you approach this, but you guys are going to be on the platform, but I always think to kind of make sure you kind of settle it down correctly, because that thing's on tires. It could jump away from you and then you have to readjust and get out of your groove. But what do you guys think about this event?
Yeah, I mean, that was my first thought when they announced the Hummer tires. It is a similar event to pretty much the same event, 10 pounds more, I think, than what we did at Clash. So wasn't as concerned about that. I think the tires might, like you said, bounce around. So that's something to be cognizant of. As far as predictions, there's a lot of good pullers on this list.
Yep.
Third event, day 2. Obviously, it comes down to, how people decide to recover or not recover between, overnight. I wouldn't be surprised if someone breaks, gets to 10, but I also feel like there's going to be a lot of ties at like 7, 8, 9. I think there's going to be a lot of ties in this event.
Mhm.
Well, it stands to
I think,
reason.
I think Stephen Bradley will do good on this one.
Yes,
He's a
yes.
puller.
His pulls have been looking really good.
Steve won the pull last year, the deadlift ladder, and then in training, I believe he's hit 855 raw. So he might give you a run for your money, Frank.
Hey, listen, I'm just going to hope for the fucking best, man. I mean,
and then
train my butt off, and
and
I'm
then
worried about Justin.
and then in terms of the rest of the world list, Yuri Katalchek is usually a pretty strong puller. He was the former record holder a few years ago with a 900 suited pull. So but he's I think he's
Yuri's
coming
out, right?
he's coming. It looks like he's coming because he was,
Okay.
of course, messaging me a little bit. But I think he's a little banged up with. I think he has like either like a partial tear in his proximal bicep, so he might be a little slower than usual. But Yuri usually puts on a pretty good show, and he's fun to compete with. And then anything else you guys want to mention here on the deadlift? We have Tim Bald. That's interesting. So Tim's been around forever. He's a North Carolina guy, I'm pretty sure. Usually a pretty decent puller, so he could do well. And of course, Hein did really well on like an axle deadlift at the New Jersey clash when he tied with McKeegan, and Jeff Lee ended up beating their totals. So I think again, yeah, you got 10 or 12 really good pullers on this list. And then the last event is going to be the sandbag medley, going from 260, 280, 300, 320, 350. Do you guys see a lot of guys finishing the sandbag medley?
I think it's going to be a race through 300, and then the real test will be the 325 and 350, and that will really kind of break people off.
But how many people are you think are going to finish the 350?
I think only a few guys are going to finish. Honestly,
10, maybe 10, 12.
You think 12 guys? I was guessing 5.
You think
Yeah.
that few?
Yeah, it's 350
after the deadlift.
Yeah, and out of this list, it's hard for me to pick a winner on this particular event. I would say like Clayton would probably be a decent one. Usually has pretty good hips, but who looked like he had decent training. I feel like it's something that he really pounded on was Brandon Burley. So Brandon was the USS winner at 242. So he earned his invite to Clash. He beat Tommy Sharp for third, and then there was the other guy that took second, who's also on the U.S. Army team. Dan, right?
That was like his tryout for the fitness team, Vince.
Yeah. So Brandon ended up being those. He was one of those guys that was doing the speed races at 300. So I feel like this is the event that he's really eager for. But he looks like a pretty solid competitor all around, so he could make it. I saw some of Jonathan's training.
Yeah, I think Jonathan Parker is probably going to do well at this event. He's pretty solid at the sandbag to shoulder.
Now, what do you guys think? Do you think it's kind of a fad event? Do you think this is something it's really popular this year, and we're just not going to see it for another 3 or 4 years?
I hope it phases out.
I mean,
it's going around.
I don't dislike the event. I think it will probably fade out just because of how popular, and pretty much every competition I've done in the last 2 years has had some variation of it. But one reason I think it's popular is it's pretty easy to do. It's quick. Like, unless you have 5 to 10 people and a ton of bags, like you're barely going to have a max bag to shoulder, just because logistically that's going to be rough. I think it is exciting. It's exciting to watch as far as not having like custom fabricated stuff for each competition. So while I do think it's kind of faddish, I wouldn't be surprised if it sticks around for a while, just because of how easy it is to promote in a competition.
So supposedly the 350, 320 has will have like a metal or a lead core. So the bags might be a little smaller. So that might be a little easier to shoulder compared to a fully sand.
Yeah, I would imagine it's probably going to be the 309 bag that Cerberus makes. That's what my 325 is, and it's completely packed to the top.
I packed my 308 bag from Cerberus, and it weighs 355.
Oh wow!
I got mine up to 350, 355.
I'm just going to tell people mine's 355.
I tried to pick 340 and I absolutely couldn't even get it off the ground. So
I think the only winner here is whoever sells sand is who won this contest. So the next events are, of course, the final events, and it's hard to pick a winner for the finals if we don't pick finalists. So I kind of went off the list.
Uh-oh.
And everybody in green is the finalist. So I have you four boys. So I have Clayton, Hein. So I didn't pick 10. I picked the potential guys I think that are going to be fighting for the top. So I put the 2 Ukrainian guys in there. I think Vitaly trains with Pavlo Kordiaka, and right now Ukraine is on a tear in
Yeah,
terms
they
of
are.
all the competition. So I wouldn't be surprised. And I'm pretty sure either Vitaly or Yuri won the Ultimate Strongman last year. Like Johnny went out there and competed in the when he won the Masters 105 title. He also competed in the Open, and I want to say either Vitaly or Yuri is the one who won that. So they seem probably a pretty decent 105. I put Stephen Bradley in there, but his press is really tough. But I think he's good enough to potentially at least get a lot of points on the 3 events, especially if there's going to be 40 guys in the weight class. Bromley, he's obviously got to do pretty good on the press. So if he can limit the rest of the events, he's going to do pretty well. Jonathan looks like he's really been training. I put Brandon in there too. And then just from kind of what I've seen, I think they're going to be probably fighting for of course, the last spot, but like Chris Harrison and Sean from Ireland, I think they're going to be pretty decent. But the first event going to be on the yoke. I'm going to go with the next best yoker from last year, which was Justin Loy. I think this is Justin's.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Justin's event to lose.
Yeah. Who's that dude that won last year?
Me.
No.
Well, I took second and then I got the first place points, but it was actually Vladimir Reshka. So Vladimir is a OG 105. I've competed with him since 2014 at the Arnold. That's the first time I competed with him, but he's kind of like an OG 105, and yoke was his best event, and that was he pretty much didn't do too well on the rest of the events. He just showed out on the yoke and beat me by like 0.12. It was annoying, but it's always just those microseconds is always annoying to lose. But I think this is Dan's, or not Dan's, but Justin. But I would say I had Dan up there. I think Dan's gonna be sandbagging us, but I think he's gonna do pretty well. And then Clayton,
He's a good yoker.
2017, he won the event, and then there was some random Canadian dude that was good at yoke, and then I took third in that back in 2017. McKeegan, usually it's kind of like he got 40 seconds last year, so if he cuts
He's
that,
been
cuts that in
working
half,
on.
that's a huge improvement.
Yeah.
And Yuri is slow, but he's usually a strong yoker as well. And then we'll see on the other guys. So circus dumbbell. There's a lot of good circus dumbbell pressers. I want to say Mr. Michael Connors will be fighting on the top. Of course, He's got a lot of good reps. Clayton, of course, is a good dumbeller. McKeegan, this is one of the events he looks pretty fast on. Anybody else you guys think is pretty good at dumbbell from this potential list?
Bromley has a little bit of trouble with his lockout. I know that. But I mean, if his other pressing translates over, if he's worked the kink out of his elbow, then yeah, he'll be good at it.
You call him kinky?
We can call him New Balance.
Dan's only been failing reps, but I think that if he puts it together, he'll probably do pretty good on this one. And Nick Hein, he's
yeah,
always Nick Hein.
Yeah,
Always
he's a great dumbeller. And then of course Dan has a great form, just like Alexei Novikov. So I see him getting under these dumbbell.
I just haven't posted any of my actual runs of circus dumbbell.
Oh,
So we'll see how good it translates.
whoa. And then we have Stones. So kind of finishing off, depending again, there's a lot of the Clayton's performance depending on his knee, but like of course Stones could be a pretty tough one at the end. But historically, he's a pretty good stone loader, especially in series. Yuri is okay at stones, but I would say a lot of the stone boys I think Mike's going to be right up there. Mr. Frank, I would love if Justin and Dan would train stones a little more, but of course it is what it is. But what do you guys think? Kind of finishing up.
I only trained stones one time.
I mean, I'll say for those who don't remember, I was tied for first going into stones at Clash. And so I have trained stones and stone accessories a lot more this time. My last stone session going through, I don't have a 400-pound stone at the gym, but 375 was the last one I did. Is the best stone session I've had probably in 2 years. Well, really since I hurt my back doing stones before 2021 clash. So I am actually for the first time excited for stones in a competition since 2021. So hopefully I get the opportunity to prove that I don't suck.
Now based off the list, is there anybody you think I left off in terms of who could potentially make the finals? Like I've seen like Ollie Clark stuff. He looks always pretty strong. I know he kind of had that little panic attack at Clash, but hopefully he could potentially kind of redeem himself. But he might be a little too young for this. I always say that the guys coming in that have had OSG experience usually do well. So usually it's tough to do really well in your first OSG trip. It always comes down to like who is the most kind of seasoned competitor, who's been competing the most, who's seen the most situations. Or not actually Paul Manzat, I don't know how to say it, but Paul from Zambia, he made the finals last year, but I want to say he zeroed the log getting in. So I think that's going to be, it's this year is going to be really tough. The other one that of course I saw, Glenn, I'm not going to pronounce that last name, from Norway. He actually was supposed to be in my group at Clash and he ended up not coming to Clash, but he looked pretty solid. So I wouldn't be surprised if he puts a good run together. And then potentially Mr. Darren. Darren didn't have the greatest run at Clash, but I would say that if he puts all his I would say his foot in front of the other, and of course competes to his best ability, I think he potentially might squeeze into that last final spot. But yeah,
How do you feel about Nick? How do you feel about him? His last thing that I spoke to him about was he was trying to come in at weight or like 5 pounds above weight to avoid having to water cut. How do you feel somebody who comes in, 5 pounds heavy, 235, and only has to do that minimal water cut will stand against somebody who's going to be like Dan, 265 pounds once he blows back up?
I weigh 238 right now.
so it depends.
No, you don't.
So if
That
Darren,
could be me too. I only weigh like 236 right now because I was sick last week.
but that's only like 4 or 5 pounds off your normal weight.
Yeah.
But if you're normally
Usually
like
about
250 and you spend all 12 weeks dieting to 235, so you have a short cut, I think that's going to hurt you. You spent all those times not really refeeding during your training, not really supporting the training with the well nourishment, all those calories. And then that's where one of the places where Clayton really shines. He can cut that weight and refuel and be back on top, up to like 260 in no time and feeling good. Clayton also will go what I've seen the biggest measures more than some of us in order to cut that weight. So he'll go the laxatives. He'll be puking. He'll be kind of down the dumps, but he'll do anything to cut that weight. So that's the things I've kind of seen, especially in the past. But he was the one guy I was hoping to kind of compete with. I've never beat Clayton out of all the years I competed with him. I haven't competed him since 2017, but I was really looking for my revenge. But if you're Clayton, if you're watching this another time, huh? All right, buddy. But to answer your question, Frank, I always say it's better to cut some weight. Again, be a little bigger coming in rather than cut all that weight and diet that whole prep.
Instead of spending so much time dieting down, instead get a hold of Frank or myself to set up a dope ass water cut.
There you go, guys.
A plug.
Excellent plug. And I need one of those shirts. I think we all need one of those shirts. So whenever you get around to it, Mr. Justin. Anything else we would like to add before I stop sharing the screen and we go back to our conversation?
Well, you were just asking about some of the guys that aren't highlighted here that could potentially make the finals. And you mentioned Darren. A couple other guys that I think could be on the cusp. Marshall Zinn, he can potentially be good, but I think he's been dealing with an injury, so we'll see. But then Kevin Candido has been kind of really ramping up recently as well. Did well at the Arnold, so I think those guys are kind of on the cusp there too.
My only concern is Kevin is another guy that got into the finals zeroing the log. So just you can't right now with all these competitors, you can't be towards the bottom of anything and make the finals. So I know Kevin's gonna be really strong in the other 3 events, but that's right, especially the deadlift too. But you can't be weak in one event. But yeah, of course we're gonna get back to the regular screen and move on a little bit and then just to make sure where I was. Yeah, so that was one of our questions. Who was going to make it to the day 3 on our fan questions? But besides, like, of course, we saw at Ultimate Strongman, we saw Emmanuel Pasquari of Austria, because I know where Austria is, Dan. All right, it's a German country, or German speaking country. German speaking country.
I know a few Austrians who would be very offended by that.
But who's missing from this OSG 105 kilo roster? Is there anybody you guys were hoping to compete with?
Isaac.
Nicholas can be.
It can be.
Well, besides me.
I mean, I wish Isaac would have made it.
Mhm.
I mean, I've competed against him twice. He's narrowed me out by a very narrow margin, but I also really enjoy competing with him. I like him. And I wish he would come down there if for no other reason than just hang out, to be honest. But I don't know. And if I didn't mention anybody's name, it's not anything personal. Part of my whole competition prep strategy is I don't watch anybody's prep videos. So it's nothing to do with not liking or not knowing anybody. It's just I don't see most of this stuff. I see Justin's stuff, occasionally Mike's and Frank's, but so I hope I didn't offend anybody.
You missed Mike's.
You didn't mention
Mike
me.
is doing something every single day, no matter what. I don't think he ever rests.
You can't. That body does not quit.
No, you ain't kidding.
Anybody else? I have a whole list.
Yeah, I think the 2-time world's strongest man, Anthony Furman, he should be there. He talks about it.
Yeah, he was talking a big game back in January. I think he fell off a little bit. What happened, Justin? What do you think?
Dude, I think he's just
As his best friend, Justin, tell us.
I talked to him quite a bit. I think he's just hanging out, enjoying life.
Could you imagine?
Thing? Yeah, I know. I can imagine. Yeah. Let's see who else should be there.
Back when we had or this a few weeks ago, but we had McKeegan go out like, we want to find out who the real number 1 is. He mentioned like Tyson Morrissey, and of course Tyson's a great athlete, but he just had a baby. Even if he was like healthy or ready to compete, he actually been training a lot. I think he still wouldn't have made the trip just because he has a baby. He hasn't trained internationally. I know Australia's been more locked down than any other country, but he hasn't really come out in a bit.
Jesse Nelson.
You said Jesse Nelson?
Jesse Nelson. Where is he?
Yeah.
I think he competed a lot this year. I think it was kind of either ASM or OSG, and I think he picked ASM because I think it just, of course, really lined up better. But usually the more static the show is, the better Jesse does. And this show has a little more mixture between heavy and kind of athletic movements, a little more than Clash was very fast. But like anything that's really heavy, that's Jesse name on it all day. But I wrote a few down. There's a guy named his name is Leon. He was out of Russia. He's the guy that hosted the Russian show I went to in 2021. He ended up tearing as MCL the first competition in front of his hometown, which was a little tough. But he's back. He won the Middle East's Strongest Man. He won a contest, an international 105 kilo contest in Brazil. That's in January. If you guys are interested in going to Brazil, I'm pretty sure there's a 105 kilo contest because Adrian Anderson, who was like the 2021 European champ, another one on my list, also was there. I don't know if you guys remember Evgeny Karolenko. He's also from Russia. He did the Arnold main stage 3 times. Or he made it 3 times and then won 1 year. And then, of course, I had Marek of Poland. He's done this show before, and he's like Poland's strongest man. I have Jeffrey Lee. I would love to see Jeff back in the mix. And then Mike, the Slice Cogden would be, I think, should make a return because he's always come.
I thought he was originally doing it. Was he?
I'm not sure why he's not. Last year he was signed up, but he's taken like 5th and 6th in the. I think he's 4th and 5th in the past. So Mike's always been right in there, right in the mix, like very similar to kind of like a McKeegan or High Performance of last year. So those are the guys I would like to see. But I would like, so moving on, I would like your guys' opinion on this. So I was on also another podcast on today. I went down to Steve Tripp's. I spoke with him and the Greek Goliath, and we're talking all things strongman, all things OSG. So talking about the heavyweights, so you have guys like Spencer Remnick, who's podiumed twice now on the stage, but is also coming back to OSG. Wes Claiborne has also podiumed and is coming back to OSG. But do you guys think that they should, once you podium at the Giants Live or the OSG Open, that you should be in the Giants Live system? You shouldn't have to keep coming back and have to prove yourself that you deserve to be on that stage. I know there's always that kind of, once you get the Giants Live, there's that show aspect. But do you think that they should keep coming back, or they should be in the system once you podium at OSG Open?
How would the call up to the show be? How would the call up to like a Giants Live show be? Is it normally just the first place guy gets called to a show, or is it however many openings there are?
Top three guys get a Giants Live
called.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they should absolutely be in the system.
So, like, for instance, like Spencer competed, I forget which show, but it was like July, or I believe. And he didn't podium, so he's kind of back in this mix. I'm not sure if they told him he has to requalify again, but I feel like Spencer is good enough, especially since he's podiumed twice now. But Dan, Justin, Mike, what do you guys think?
Yeah, I think that you should be, like, if you podium there, you should be thrown in the Giants Live. It'd be the same as like get your pro card and then either not doing ASM or not doing well at ASM, be like, well, you didn't do good enough. You need to go back and requalify. You know, you've already proven your worth. And, you know, sometimes a lot of those guys, like, the pool is a little bit different in the Giants Live circuit compared to the OSG circuit. The competition's harder and all that, you know, the weights are a little bit heavier stuff. So, you know, maybe you're ready, but you just need that little extra kick to be competitive at that Giants Live. And you're not going to get that if you're not competing at those Giant Live shows.
That's fair. Mike, you were saying something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, I think you should be in the system, but if that's not how it's working out, if they're not taking you into consideration, then I can see the athletes feel like they do need to prove themselves more. And if they're not given the opportunities to compete at Giants Live, where else are they going to be able to prove themselves to do that? And so I think they probably feel like they have to come back to OSG to make more of a name for themselves.
Yeah, I agree. Well, there's two trains of thought. There's Justin's aspect and comparing it to kind of how Strongman Core works, and then kind of to Mike's point of if they aren't re-invited back, then what other option do they have? I don't know exactly what the rules as they stand now are, because if you don't get invited back and it is all those Giants Lives are invite only, then I don't really see other option other than proving your worth. So I don't know if maybe there's some way to you get your international or your Giants Live pro card, so to speak, and then you're in the system, but based on your first competition, if you do poorly, doesn't mean you can't come back, but there's only certain lower level, less prestigious Giants Lives that you have to do in order to prove yourself and kind of work the way up. But I don't think as it stands that there's a system to kind of keep competing at that level while getting better and kind of unlocking or qualifying for the higher level Giants Live competitions. But at the same time, it makes more sense to me that it's just like, you podiumed at OSG as a heavyweight. You're a part of the Giants Live team now. You get in where you fit in. If someone who's a top 5 performer at every competition isn't coming or they pull out, that's a slot for one of the relatively lower level guys.
All right, excellent. Frank, you want to add anything?
Yeah, no. I think like you make that wave at OSG and you just got to ride it in. You know, that's the one thing you guys are saying. You got to ride that wave in. And I guess if you crash off that wave, that's Justin's thing. If you don't do well and they send you back, I don't think that makes any sense. I like what Dan had to say a lot.
It's like what Sean and James and Terry were talking about at the ASM podcast on here. Like,
it's Mr. Terrence to you.
It's Coach to me.
But
it's you win nationals, but now you're bottom middle to the pack of the pro level at the ASM, right? Like, no one's expected to win nationals and then win ASM. I don't see why any expectation should be you win OSG, so you're expected to podium at Giants Live. That doesn't make sense to me. So I agree. I had the same answer as you guys. I said the same thing. They should be in the system. I think the one thing, the factor, just based off of like just conversations with Mr. Colin Bryce,
is that they look for two things. They look for, of course, the showmanship. Of course, like if you can be entertaining, if you can sell tickets, I think that's one component. But also they look for having a skill or like a really strong event. So like if you're a presser, you're going to be invited to the max log, max axle. If you're a
Iron Bibby.
you're invited to the world deadlift. If you're Mark Felix, he told me the reason why Mark Felix keeps getting invites because he usually wins all the grip events. So, and people love to see that. So that's why he keeps getting events. So if these guys, if they're listening, if you guys do win or get a chance to go Giants Live, you're going to have to try to win an event in order to keep getting invited. So I think that's kind of the way it is now, but I agree with you guys. They should stay in the system and keep going. But let's move on to some fan questions. And the first fan question, so we just had the Rogue Invitational, but do we ever think the Rogue Invitational will involve the 105 kilo class?
As of today, no.
I don't think it will. I think they would do a great job with it, and I think they do a really good job marketing the 105 kilogram class. And I think it would go over well because the combination of strongman, but then the success that they have with the CrossFit component of the Rogue Invitational, the 105 kilogram class is kind of a blend of those things, strong and athletic. That I think it would be a marketable event, but I don't see it happening.
I think the only way it's marketable is if it becomes a hybrid between CrossFit and heavyweight strongman, because we're not going to be as impressive as the heavyweights, which, as we saw this year, is even more of a I guess optically appealing, just with all the crazy extravagant implements that they use. We're not going to be able to do the same weights as they are, so we'll lose a little bit of that, but we can move faster. So it would have to be a competition that showed that we're stronger than the CrossFit athletes, but more conditioned and more athletic than a lot of the heavyweights. And I think it would be, I don't think that the promoters of the Rogue Invitational are even going to begin to explore that, at least for several years.
Yeah.
Fair. I would say they first need to get the women strongmen involved before they can even think about the 105s. I think that's the first step, and we haven't seen the women's there.
Yeah, I agree.
First two contests. What is the most cringe thing in strongman? What do you guys see online and makes you cringe?
Banging your clients.
Ooh.
That's a good one.
Nice.
Yeah.
Making sympathy post.
GoFundMe's.
That is true. I like it. Mike, Dan, or did you guys have any good ones?
They don't want to get canceled.
No, it's not that at all. It's I'm trying to figure which one it is. It's spin the wheel. It varies day to day for me. I don't know. I think this isn't specific to strongman, but like social media should not be your therapeutic outlet. Strongman can be, but like, I mean, we all go through stuff, but the fastest way for me to scroll past your video is to write 6 paragraphs about how hard life is. Because I promise you're not the only one. And if you need somebody, reach out to me. I'll talk to you, but that bugs me.
So what makes you cringe, Mike?
I don't know. You guys all mentioned good ones, and I typically try to stay away from the cringeworthy stuff, the type of stuff I want to see. But I don't think I have anything to add.
Mike only watched 90 Day Fiance in order to get some cringe porn. So that's his go. Actually, I like that show. Anyway, actually, really quickly, did you guys ever were you guys ever into Pat Mendez, the weightlifter out of Average Bros? Back when he ended up being on the 90 Day Fiance show, but Pat Mendez was one of those guys. He had a thing where he squatted 600 pounds for like over 100 days every day. Wow. I'm not sure if you guys were into weightlifting, but of course, Pat Mendez was a fun one. He was a really strong guy, but he ended up getting popped and kicked out of the league. So one question was thoughts on when you guys are coming of it. Once you guys are of age, thoughts on competing as a master. Will you guys pursue that?
I've talking about this with some of my CrossFit teammates, and I think a lot of them had the same opinion as me. Is I'm going to keep competing in the open as long as I can. if it becomes to the point that it's like there's absolutely no way I can be competitive just because I'm too broken or too old or whatever, then I may consider it. But I'm certainly not like waiting for age 35 to start competing in masters. Or is it 40 for us? It's 35 for CrossFit.
40 for
Okay, 40. Yeah. I mean, I don't see anything wrong with it personally, but if I'm in the sport, that's 9 years away from me. So if I'm still competing at all 9 years, then I'm probably going to stay open.
Yeah, I want to compete at the highest level as I can and for as long as I can. I can't really see myself competing in Masters Strongman, maybe Masters CrossFit when I can't do Strongman anymore. But yeah, probably not.
You boys want to add anything?
Yeah, I would keep competing in an open class as long as I could, if I was still competing at that point. But if I saw myself like getting to that point where I'm not competitive in an open class, then I would probably move on to something else anyway.
I like it. I was thinking I would probably still try. I will only compete in the Masters. I want to compete long enough to see my kids compete. So if that's what it took, I think that's what I would do.
That'd be cool.
I think that's the extent of competing in Masters. So someone asked about next year about upcoming Clash predictions. I feel like we're very early. If you talk about who's already qualified for Clash, we have, of course, Mr. Mike O'Connor, Mr. Dan McKeegan, Isaac, Jesse Nelson, Mike Cogden, Clayton, Chad Currian, Tyler Young. I think I'm missing a few. And then internationally, I was mentioning Leon from Russia is qualified. He has a Ukrainian passport, so he's able to get to the US. You also have Tyson. Tyson got a invite. I think he from winning Australia's Strongest Man. So I think it really depends on the events. I think it's really too early to do Clash predictions because there's going to be groups, potentially a different new setup. But anything you guys want to add or anybody want to take on this question?
I mean,
I'm gonna at least improve on my placing from last year. I'm going to improve on 10th place. I can tell you that.
I think everybody who competed last year that you named on that list were finalists. So, and most of the other ones that weren't there, I mean, I know of Chad, I've never competed against him, but obviously he's a competitor. I mean, I think it's a toss up. It could be the person you pick for a certain group of events as first could be 10th with a totally different set of events, just depending on who they are. It's really far out.
I forgot Bob Schwantz. Bob Schwantz is also qualified.
Yeah, that's right.
I see.
I mean, he was also a finalist. So,
I mean, Justin's always in the mix for everything. I know his back's been pretty bad. And if we're just
So
talking,
he says,
if we're just talking Americans, yeah, he's a troller too. But if we're just talking Americans, Mike is, and especially these two, Mike is constantly, every competition he competes in, he places higher. Dan is going to do really well at OSG, and I think he's gonna take that, and it's going to be all he needs. I think actually I'm calling Dan for taking Clash this year. I know it's early, but I'm calling it this year.
I can walk by then.
I think you'll be all right, bud.
I'm leaving it all out on OSG.
Good. And that's why you're going to do great at Clash.
now we might have to try to figure out, we might have to work this out together. What are something as athletes you find you all have in common?
I think we don't take ourselves too serious. We take training seriously. We're all great competitors, but we don't, like, if you catch us outside of a competition, we're just pretty normal dudes and easy to talk to. Like, as much as Strongman is a part of our life, it's not our entire personality, if that makes sense. Which if it is, I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I think that's something we have in common.
Anything you guys want to add?
I mean, you gotta have some level of mutual respect for the discipline that we all must have to get to. I mean, let's be serious. I know that's pretty boring and plain, right? But you guys all eat 5-6 meals a day, right? You guys all got to make sure we make weight. We all got to make sure we train. We all got to make sure we fucking recover. Right. So it's,
we're all dedicated. Yeah.
It's a brotherhood, no matter whether you like somebody, respect them or not. I mean, we're attached to the hip, whether you like it or not.
Do you guys all wear Crocs?
I don't.
I don't either.
I haven't got on the Croc train yet.
And yeah, I know Dan likes Crocs. So let's move on. So I like Dan. Dan has the best answer, so he gets 100 points.
This is a game?
Oh,
We're doing that again?
So this question is for our resident Star Wars expert, Dan.
Justin.
Last time I said
loves Star
Justin,
Wars.
just to ruffle Dan's feathers.
I'm pretty good. at
Which
Star Wars.
colors are all our lightsabers? So go around the room and tell us which color lightsaber we would have.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I already know if you say yellow for me, I'm going to kill you.
No,
Oh,
yellow.
yellow.
Actually, there's an interesting reason for having yellow. Actually, yellow might be good for you, actually. I would say, because I referred to you as Yoda before, especially the Yoda of pressing, and I called your gym in Boston Dagobah when I trained there. So you get green like Yoda. I would say mine is white because I'm neither good or bad. I don't really subscribe to the Jedi Order. So just like Ahsoka, who's tatted on my arm, white. Mike is definitely blue. He gives me big Obi-Wan vibes because he's just like, nothing really phases him. Like he's always cool,
What's the
calm, and
meaning
collected.
behind the colors? What are the traits associated with each?
So certain colors don't, not all colors, like green and blue are relatively interchangeable. Red, the reason red is for Sith is because when they get the Kyber crystals that they make their lightsabers out of, they basically expel all of the good out of them. And so there's a red, which is why I actually haven't seen Tales of the Jedi yet, but there's this, I read the book, the Ahsoka book, and there's a scene where Ahsoka destroys an Inquisitor, steals his lightsaber, and because he's already expelled the good out of it, and she expels the bad out of it when she takes it, that's why she's the only one who has a white blades, because she doesn't subscribe to the Jedi Order either, but she's also not a Sith. So there's a good history lesson, boys and girls. Justin,
He's the only
Okay,
bad
round
one.
one.
Here. Red.
Justin's purple, like Mace Windu, because he doesn't care. He's a wild card. Justin gives big Sam L. Jackson, Mace Windu vibes. And Frank,
Terrified right now.
I don't know. I almost gave Camby yellow because that's the color of the blades for the temple guards. But I think especially based off of Frank's answer for the last question about like being a brotherhood, I think you can get yellow, Frank, because you're more of a temple guard. You're strong with the Force, but you're not like a Jedi master, but you protect the temple and you subscribe and you follow very diligently the religion.
I guess I'll take it.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a slight. It wasn't supposed to be.
No,
a
no,
slight.
I understand. That's what I'm saying. Thank you.
That was actually Frank's question. So good job.
Oh,
Dan.
really?
Come on. I just wanted to see how much of a nerd you really were. And
And you
it was
showed us.
perfect.
And now we know, yeah.
Frank, this is for you. That guy that works out a lot said, not really a question, but a statement to Frank, OSG 2023. What is he saying, Frank?
It's Andrew. It's one of my clients. He's a 90 guy, and he's one of my nutrition guys. And since he's been out with me, he's put on like 15 pounds of muscle, somewhere around there, maybe 12. And his goal that he's been preaching to me is he wants OSG 2023. He wants it bad. So everything that he's doing and that we're doing is working towards getting him both obviously strong and metabolically fit and keeping him healthy to reach that goal.
Should we call him out? Is there anything that he's slacking on that does he need to be more disciplined? Is he partying too much?
No, he's actually been doing pretty freaking good. He was sick there for a little bit. He lost a couple pounds, but he's been back on plan, been back on training, and he's doing great. Proud of him.
All right. Well, good job, Andrew. If all four of you were in a sumo wrestling match, who would win?
Frank.
Probably Frank because he's like 1,000,000 pounds.
Yeah.
I was
Not
like,
a million pounds.
I was guessing Frank, but I like to wrestle, so but I'm not in the four. So
Do you use oil? I feel like you would use the oil. Like it's better with the oil.
I mean, I would use a lightsaber and just cut your legs off.
No, it's
But
not.
there's no.
Sumo.
It's not. Yeah.
Push it, like a lot of pushing in your underwear.
Why do you have to be in your underwear?
Well,
Why is that a prerequisite?
that's what they do.
It's a hypothetical. It's a hypothetical.
Slowly takes off pants.
So I think we all know the answer to this, but I also have an additional answer that you guys might be surprised. But who is the shortest guy you've seen do well above 90 kilos?
I mean, it's Tyler.
Tyler. Yeah.
Yeah,
Per class?
I was
Above-
just above,
above
90
90
kilos, so
kilos.
pretty much our weight or heavier. You know,
Or Rob.
yeah, Rob Kearney,
Rob
Yeah.
Kearney's probably one of the, because
5'10",
Yeah,
How
he's
tall's
like-
Kevin?
Kevin's like 6 feet.
He's like
Is he
6'6".
six?
yeah, Kevin's taller than me. Rob's about my height.
So Mike can probably speak on this. Emmanuel Pasquari is pretty short. He said he was 5'9" in like a gym
Yeah.
life podcast.
Yeah, he is pretty short and he's solid. Yeah, so he could give Tyler a run for his money in terms of shortness to success.
And then if you think probably heavyweights, you probably have who's the old Bulgarian, the circus lifter, lived in Florida. Circus
Dimitar?
Dimitar?
Yeah, Dimitar was of course a short, strong man. Vitalis Lilas was 5'10", 5'11", 315 pounds. He was of course a good stack, but there's been quite a few short guys. Favorite hype songs going into competition day?
Ooh.
Ooh.
I bet everybody has one. So go around the horn.
Of the
Start with
Abyss.
you, Frank. Yeah.
Of the Abyss by Lorna Shore. They're a Jersey like deathcore, death metal band, and they are absolutely savage. Something about them, man. Every time they're in all my videos recently.
How about you? Justin?
Oh, go ahead, Justin.
Oh, I was waiting for you to say some Jedi theme song.
No, well,
The Imperial March.
it's not lately. At one point, there's this. It was a fan made preview for what the Obi-Wan series was supposed to be, and it has clips from Rebels, and it leads up to Maul. It's a bunch of excerpts of Maul talking about trying to kill Obi-Wan in the desert on Tatooine.
Is that what you're gonna be listening to before the Viking press?
That's what I listened to before the Stone at Clash 2021. But more consistently, a hype song is Can't Win by Pup, which is my favorite band. It's what this tattoo is for. The pinata with knives and a noose around its neck. Because it just talks about how you can't win and you're not good enough and you blame everything on your problems, which is anti-motivation, which is the best motivation for me. That's what I respond to the best.
Awesome. Justin.
Man, I don't have like a specific. Normally, like anything Nicki Minaj. That's my normal go-to.
She's been on under hot water lately, right?
Yeah, everybody.
Justin wishes she was in hot water.
His hot water.
How about you, Mr. Mike?
I'd have to say something by Lil Wayne, like right above it, Forever, Drop the World, shit like that. I mean, most of the time I train to hard rock, but when I'm like leading up to a competition, I listen to more Lil Wayne for some reason.
Lil Wayne gets Mike going.
Carter 3.
And let's see. And then I know I'm getting ahead of
What
myself.
about you, Nick?
Oh, dubstep all the way. There's always a good one. Like right before, it's always electronic, but lately the song that I was listening to like in my walks before ASM, and even asked Anthony to put the song on during my dumbbell was Righteous by Mo Beats, which is like more of a TikTok song. I was watching a Pepe Lord, which is like the Pepe the Frog. There's a whole video series on TikTok of different animations, and that's the song that they use, and just really touched me, and it became my new song. But when you blast it, and especially with the elevated bass and the reverb, it's like it just shakes my car. So that's been my song as of late. But do you guys have any interesting plans for the off season?
I might do a CrossFit competition.
Oh, very cool.
I'm looking for a low-level partner in the area here. I think one of my teammates has one that she's gonna pick for me.
How about Mike O'Connor? Mike loves CrossFit.
Yeah,
I mean, of course I'll be doing some of that.
yeah.
I'm looking forward to really scaling back on the weights. The best I ever felt was coming off my bicep injury leading up to Clash on the Cumberland, and I just felt so fresh and so good. I need another phase like that where I just really scale back, focus more on conditioning, technique, and
I think you're very well conditioned, Mike. I think you could put on
Nah.
2 pounds. About Justin or Frank?
I do combat sports.
Tactical games.
Yeah.
No. Like I want to learn boxing. I want to learn Krav Maga. I don't know, something like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. You know what I mean? That stuff is it's all on my radar. But if I cut down some of my weights, like Mike said, I want to do BJJ. I want to get back into tussle. But like I was, that's we get injured doing shit like that. At least my unlimber ass does. So
I
I've
did
been
take a
waiting
break
until
from Krav. I was doing Krav every week, and I did take a break from it. It was cutting into recovery. The risk of injury was there, so but I'm going to start that back up. After.
Mike mitigates the risk. That's the smart thing to do.
It is.
Justin, we didn't hear from you.
Yeah, I'm gonna lose some weight. But no, I'm gonna diet down a bit and probably really work on some mobility and just try to get my body really healthy and then kind of rebuild from there.
Love it. And then, so for the moment we all have been waiting for, so maybe a little prediction time on who will win the contest for the 105 kilo title. So it's really a tough one. Even like when I was competing, like who I think would be kind of pushing me, or just pushing for that top spot. And I'm going to go with the most people that have been there the most. So I have 2 at the top, and I really had trouble doing a third. So I'm going to leave that open. So, but I think that the top spots are going to be between Mr. Clayton, if he's healthy, and your boy, Justin Loy. Justin has the most OSGs in this group. Justin was inches away from winning last year. I was also inches away from loading that stone as well. So we were both inches away. So I think Justin got a taste. He was in first going that last event. So I'm sorry if I put pressure on you, Justin, but I do have faith if you come in, Mr. Healthy. I think Dan's going to win Mr. Congeniality. I think he's going to get that award on the guy's side. They do that at the end. So Dan's.
Wait, do they really? That's a real thing?
Well, yeah, they did. Like they didn't like. Wasn't Ryan Rose and like Rihanna Lovelace one that did that? Like won the. They named it after. God, I should know this because he passed away in 2021, and he was a helper in the Strongman Corporation.
Oh, Santa?
No, it's not Santa.
I know who you're talking about.
I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Rest in peace. His name
Georgia.
Shannon.
Shannon. Yes, the Shannon Award. They did a Shannon Award.
Yeah.
So that's the Mr. and Mrs. Reality. So it's gonna be the Dan Hughes Award after this. Are there any dark horses going into this title? I know I was like looking at Hines' Instagram. He called himself a dark horse, but he came 5th last year. So I think he's on most people's radar. So he can't really call himself a dark horse.
Yeah,
He's not a dark horse. He's definitely solidly in the mix. So you can't call
I
him.
agree.
Yep.
I mean, I agree he has a shot. I commented and said you could win.
Actually, I forgot to mention, I think normally I think this is great events for Mr. McKeegan, but personally, if McKeegan, I know you're gonna be listening to this, and I know, of course, you like to talk a lot of shit. So here's mine. I think you do too much training. I don't think you're training smart. I think you compete too much. You didn't prioritize this event, and this is gonna cost you. So I hope you can pull it together. I hope you can prove me wrong, but I think there's these other guys that have been prepping, that have been peaking at the right time, and I think that's what's gonna happen. So I think he's gonna do well, but he's gonna wish he peaked better for this.
Hey, shit. Shots fired.
Shots
Yeah.
fired. That's
You
what
need to
you
call the
get.
shots when you're not in it. Oh.
Well, that's actually
McKeegan turns around. He's like, "I'm just gonna say it. I'm glad you hurt your back."
I'm glad.
well, now he'll probably podium. So you're welcome, Mr. McKeegan. But I also do have a special announcement. I'm happy to announce that the Strongman Winter Circle podcast has also gained another female viewer outside of my mom, my mother-in-law, and my fiance. So Dan's wife. So Natalie, thank you for tuning in. But that's the show for today. Like, can you guys go around and tell the folks where to find you so they can learn more about you if they want to follow? Let's start with Frank, and we'll go around the horn from there.
All right, guys, I have 2. I guess Instagram is probably the best way. I'm Frankie Pro 105 for my personal, my Strongman page, and for my training, my nutrition, my coaching page. It's at @ProConcepts_. It's that is terrible. You can't even read that. At @ProConcepts_. feel free to reach out, send me a DM, say hello, tell me I suck, whatever. Just say hi.
Mr. Justin?
You can find me at Justins_ProStrong, or on prestigeperformance.com, where I don't really handle any of my coaching stuff. So you're better off just DMing me. And yeah, or if you get my number somehow, you can call me.
Hit me up. I'll give you his number.
You're up, Dan.
You can find me on Instagram at World's Strongest Star Wars Fan. I also apparently have a TikTok under the same name. I don't have access to it. Somebody else manages it for me.
Ooh, a personal manager. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly. It's my wife. But and then also you can find other content related to Strongman and CrossFit at my team's page, US Army Warrior Fit, I believe is what it is the Instagram. A lot of good athletes, active duty soldiers and reserve and National Guard soldiers on there that we post about for CrossFit and Strongman and woman.
Cool. And then Mr. Mike.
Yep. You can find me on Instagram at mike.o'connor_.
Excellent. But you guys can also watch all these guys. So Official Strongman is the website. So watch the stream to watch them live. But don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you know when all the cool new videos are coming out. Best of luck, guys. Thank you for coming on. I know you guys will do great. I know you guys will make me proud. Justin, I hope I didn't put any pressure on you, but other guys, prove me wrong. And until next time, stay strong.